look at the big air. Oh, that's Josh running wide. Look how close they are. And away they go. The two Subarus get away fairly evenly. Kieran tries to go in wide. Oh, Tom's hit Kieran. But Josh goes back on the inside. Gary goes wide. Mike goes up the inside of Gary. Oh, there's a bit of a tap there. Oh, there's Craig has pushed Sam into the wall. Josh Hardy wins his second ever win and the second win of the day. Chris doing more rallycross in the BMW than actual touring car racing, and it's the first win for Mark Nicol in the Renault Megane. Joe's definitely going to get it. A fantastic win for Heafy on his debut event, his first ever win in the Nissan GTR, unless Kieran can make a last minute dive. And he does, and Mark Nicol is 6th, which means he's the independent champion for season 2. Craig Keller in the Nissan GTR is going to be a win for Craig. Craig Keller is going to take the win in this race. Craig Keller is your season 2 FWTC champion. Okay then, race 2 grid then. Darren Parker is on the front row of the grid after his dominant win in the BMW for DC Motorsports next to Joe Burrows in the HB Motorsports Hyundai Genesis. Row 2 is Josh Hardy in the Renault Megane next to Luke Knox in the Team Snap-on BMW. Row 3, Connor Hewlett is in the Subaru WRX next to Mark Nicol in the K&N Racing Nissan GTR. Row 4, Kieran Thomas in the K-Tech Ford Mustang next to Craig Keller in the first of the Elite Racing Nissan GTRs. Row 5, Harry Cook in the second of the DC Motorsports BMWs next to Rob Pellet in the second of the Elite Racing Nissan GTRs. Row 6, Callum Baker in the Subaru WRX next to Mike Kuipers in his K&N Nissan GTR, and at the back row on his own is Aaron West in the Mazda Atenza. Okay then, race 2. Darren Parker on the front row of the grid with Joe Burrows. Can Joe fight Darren for the win? And away they go. It's a good start, and Connor Hewlett again gets an absolute storm of a start. Can he push Darren for the first corner? The two look like they're going together, but Connor slips in behind Darren, and Darren actually goes wide as he's under pressure from Mark there. So they look like they've all come through the first chicane unscathed, but at the moment is Mark Nicol leading with Josh Hardy in second. Let's go on board with Joe here as he sits in 4th position behind Darren as Josh and Mark make great starts. Oh, as I say, that Mark is off the track, so the leader Mark Nicol has gone wide, and I think that was on his own, so not quite sure what happened with Mark there, but that's disappointing after leading early in this race. So it looks like the 4 that were fighting up front in race 1 appear to be back up into the head of this pack early in the race already. So on board with Luke here, and Luke has really got settled up with the front runners now, and that's again not someone running wide into that chicane, and that looked like one of the DC Motorsports. It is. It's actually Harry Cook. So Harry is stuck in the gravel there. Oh, he spins it out as well. Oh, that's embarrassing for Harry. He's going to be really far down the pack now. We'll have another look and find out how it happened, whether he outbraked himself or whether he was pushed. So let's have a look. Let's watch Harry then as he goes into the chicane, and it looks like he may have done this on his own. Yeah, look at that, way outbraking him nearly into one of the Elite Racing Nissans, into the tyre wall. And then, as we saw later on, he does end up spinning himself out. So let's go on board with Craig and listen out for, yeah, there's the contact, and he actually pushed him forward into Luke, but not to the point where neither of them went off the circuit. So leading this race is Joe Burrows then, with everyone else there. This looks like Craig has gone a little bit wide there, has slowed down, but Luke is 5th. Mark's just managed to crawl back into 4th, just behind Darren, who's just behind Josh, and in the mirrors we've got Kieran in 6th position. Early days in this race though, So Luke on the inside of Mark. Someone's going wide there. That's Aaron West and that's Mike. So a few of them are really struggling to get their feet down in the start of this race. Aaron drops down to 12th as Mike goes up to 11th, Callum up to 10th, and that is still Harry struggling at the back there. So Darren back into the lead then. This race will change as it did in race 1 for the first few laps, whilst the slipstream is strong, but of course, oh, that is Mark Nicol. So Mark's hit the tyre wall there. I don't know if that someone pushed him. So Mark was, I was just about to say, Mark is doing really well, up in 4th position and fighting for the top podium positions, but he's now down with his teammate Mike, who's actually on the more harder tyre. So Mike is struggling, but yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. So let's have a look at a little replay and see if we can figure out what actually happened with Mark. Let's watch on board with Josh as we watch Mark ahead. Let's see if there's anything here, any contact. No, there's not. Mark just goes straight into the tyre wall on his own. So Luke has dropped down to 7th, so something's happened with Luke. I wonder if Luke got caught up early on as well. There's Craig, and Kieran is looking a little bit more stronger in this race after having a inconsistent race 1. Can he fight for the lead if he can catch up with the back end of Connor here? Again, Connor showing his strengths later in the season here, as Joe Burrows also really getting to grips with that Hyundai now. But Darren Parker is now behind Josh, and Josh was fighting Darren early into race 1, but through his own mistakes unfortunately spun out and ended up finishing 3rd, so he managed to pick up some spaces later in the race, but he could have won it if he didn't make those mistakes. So Darren into the lead. These two are very evenly matched around here, it looks like. But it's still a 4-way battle for the lead, as Joe Burrows and Connor aren't letting the two up front getting away too quickly just yet. Kieran's still in 5th, doing well. Craig a little bit further behind, with Luke and Mark here having a battle for 7th. Looks like Luke has had to pull back to take a penalty for his corner cutting. And there's Mark. Looks like he might have gone over those curves a bit too keen there. So the two Nissans will be evenly matched down the straights, potentially. Mark just gets ahead of Craig here just in time for the corner, and gets the job done, as Craig is now under threat from the BMW of Luke. And this 3-way fight is looking very interesting here. But Luke also gets it done. Craig slightly struggling now on his tyres, but at least he's mid-pack rather than further down the pack. That's Josh. Josh has dropped down again to 5th. So something might have happened to Josh again. We can have a little look, find out if there's anything to look at, to see if he's actually gone off or whether it's just having to take penalties potentially from corner cutting. So back on board with Kieran as Connor goes really wide. That was a wild misjudgment of corner speed there from Connor as Kieran does the same. Kieran goes really wide, so Kieran having to take the slow exit out there. Kieran again going really, really wide there, so still struggling to get this Mustang around the nature of this long circuit known for its 24-hour race. Two very sharp chicanes finish off the lap, and onto lap 3 already, going to the point of halfway round this race, and it's still consistent up the front with the 5 cars, with Joe Burrows now just behind Darren. So can Joe push for the lead, or is Darren gonna get away ahead and take another dominant lead? At the moment it looks like Joe is not letting Darren do that, and is showing more strengths in his hind eye, and Joe is doing well without his teammate Stephen Heath, who unfortunately couldn't make it tonight. But now Joe is under threat from the Mustang of Kieran, as Kieran gets a great slipstream, and actually Joe is on the inside of Darren, gets the job done here, and it could be Joe Burrows leading this race. It is. So Joe was leading the race at some point in race 1, but wasn't able to maintain it. So Joe now leading. Can Darren? Yeah, look at that. The BMW seems to be just a little bit quicker. It gets into the slipstream much earlier than the Hyundai did. But it's a 3-way now as Kieran gets up on the outside of Darren into the next corner with Josh just behind. So Joe slots in. Kieran Soren is actually on the inside. Darren, look at that. Darren's had to slot behind into 4th and is actually under threat from Connor now for 5th. So Connor looking pretty good here, as Josh and Joe, whoa, things are getting a little bit physical. Some pushing and shoving going on as Kieran is leading. Further behind, as you can see, Luke has got ahead of Mark. Mark is still ahead of Craig, so that 3-way is still going on. Nothing's changed there. Oh, a little bit of contact, and that Josh has gone into the lead, but he spins, and so Josh drops down to 5th now. In the lead goes Kieran and Joe. Yeah, it's just Joe. So this battle up the front is fantastic. It's constantly changing. Now really interesting that Kieran and Joe Burrows are fighting for it, as Darren is back up to 3rd, but no doubt he will push back into the lead again. Joe still holding on, defending really, really well. So let's go further down then. Mark has just got back ahead of Luke, so a good fight between Mark Nicol and Luke here, with Craig just waiting patiently behind for a mistake to happen. So he's dropped off just a little bit. Mike Kuipers is 9th, so this is better for Mike, as Rob is down in 10th. Aaron West getting a little bit further ahead, doing well in 11th. Harry has now managed to catch up with these two and has got ahead of Callum, who is currently at the back. So the lead of this race now is in the hands of Kieran. So Kieran's managed to get ahead of Joe. And can you believe it? They're coming through the tight double chicane to go on to lap 4, but that's Kieran and Joe Burrows in the wall. So Joe Burrows makes contact with Kieran, and the two of them go off into the gravel trap. Kieran makes heavy contact into the wall, so that will definitely be looked at by the race stewards, and that's pushed them down to 4th and 5th as the front leaders here of Darren, Connor and Josh now will fight for the lead. So that was slightly disappointing from Joe, as he was really looking to potentially take a win, and he's now got a lot of work to do, as well as Kieran, unfortunately, who was also potentially looking to fight for the win. Let's go on board with Joe here then, see what really happens with this contact. Just way outbraked himself big time. That's a huge impact. Kieran goes into the wall really hard, and that basically has ruined the race for Kieran and potentially Joe. On board with Darren then, and let's watch it from behind Joe. There's the contact. So we're on to lap 4. So Luke has got just a bit of ahead of Mark. Craig still further down, and it looks like Josh has dropped off again. So Josh again is down in 5th, so up and down like a yo-yo. Josh, the inconsistency is obvious, unfortunately. Can he regain those positions? And Joe Burrows and Kieran continue on from where they left off after that chicane, and I'm sure Kieran will want to have words with Joe after the race, because it wasn't just mid-pack, it was for the lead of the race. So now Josh is pushing Joe for 4th, so Kieran could get away after the attention on Joe has been taken off by Josh. So further up, it's the lead of the race now between Darren and Connor, on board with Connor. This is good for Connor. He runs wide. So Kieran has gapped Josh and Joe, as you can see, and maintains that podium position. Josh has got ahead of Joe, so Josh will definitely push for Kieran's 3rd position. And now Mark Nichol is ahead of Noxie, also so is Craig. So Craig ahead of Luke, so something's happened to Luke. Let's go on board with Luke, as we looked like Mark in the foreground there was slightly out of control. Maybe he just got his wheels. Oh, so Luke stopped. So that's because Craig has spun out, so something happened there. There was a little bit of contact, and it looks like Luke has stopped for Craig. So yeah, that's a shame there. Luke has had to slow right down, so that's allowed Mark to really push forward in 6th on his own now, so he's not under any threat. Joe is on his own in 5th, has dropped off, and looks like he's not able to regain that speed with the forefront leaders. So Kieran now looking to potentially push Connor for the lead of the race with Darren. The top 3 podium positions at the moment as we go on to lap 5 is Darren, Connor and Kieran, but of course we know that this particular race here at Le Mans is ever changing, as Josh looked like he was going to be joining them, but he runs very, very wide at the first chicane, so that's slowed him right down. He's going to pick the pace back up again, and it looks like Kieran is now putting Connor under pressure. He's quite close to him, and the inevitable slipstream will allow him to catch up very quickly on the straight. And that looks like Kieran is taking time penalties for cutting the corners, so that's look how much that's lost him time. So Josh up to third now. Joe Burrows. It's so disappointing to see Joe just drop off now after the incident he had, as he was second in race 1, so it would have been good to see him take another win, but I don't think it's going to be. So let's watch Craig and Luke as they go into this tight right-hander here. There is a bit of contact, and unfortunately he pushes Craig into the tyre wall. And that's why he ended up stopping to let him past. With Luke. Oh, it's just a tap, but on the exit of the corner, and it just was enough to push Craig into the wall. Gonna be Luke's still on the back of Craig after he unfortunately pushed him off the circuit. So the slipstream is enabling Luke to get on the inside into the chicane, but he slips back behind, and he's going to have another go at it on the exit of this chicane. So Luke still in 8th. Further down, Harry has made some places up and is doing well now in 9th. So this is good for Harry after the spin earlier on. He will be really frustrated after showing he can be right up the front of the field in race 1, but the spin that he had after Luke made contact with him in race 1 put him on the back foot on the grid, and then just fortunately he was in the gravel early in the race, which really destroyed his chances in this one. But 9th isn't too bad. He's managed to work his way up ahead of Rob, who's in 10th, Mike in 11th, Aaron's dropped now down to 12th. Oh, and Aaron is in the gravel. So, yeah, Aaron's still getting to grips with that Mazda, and it looks like Callum has unfortunately disappeared as well. So the lead of this race now is between Darren and Josh again, as it looks like Connor has dropped down to 3rd, but he is still in this fight. Oh, Connor, definitely rally style. The back end of that Subaru kicking out. Scandinavian flick style. Let's watch as Connor goes through this double tight chicane onto the last lap. And the Subaru, no doubt, will be very quick and nimble through there, but it's 4-wheel drive. But Josh is going to push Darren on the last lap now for this win. As he goes into the air, a little bit of lag. And Kieran now has caught up, so it could be a 4-way fight if things kick off between Darren and Josh. Joe still down in 5th. Again, he's really dropped off now, as Mark Nicol is potentially catching up with Joe. So Mark could push for 5th. Craig and Luke still fighting. And Mike and Aaron as well are having a tussle. So even with Aaron off in the gravel, he's managed to catch up with Mike. Let's go on board with Mike. And there's Aaron going off again. So Aaron's still struggling. Potentially inexperienced in this circuit. But nevertheless, looks like he's having fun. So Josh Hardy is leading. But it's a very close three-way. We can't call this race. I can't call it just yet. Who's going to take the win? So, sideways from Josh. But Darren looking really, really strong and racy. He's taking penalties. No, Josh is taking penalties, so Josh is dropping back. So Darren leads again. Kieran now in second. Connor in third. So Connor has always been there and thereabouts. He's not just quite had the chance to take the lead and fight Darren for it, but Josh drops down to fourth for taking another set of penalties for corner cutting. Can Kieran take the lead? I think he is. And that's a fantastic overtake by Kieran. So Kieran Thomas is leading now. Could he take the win for the K-Tech Mustang team? Without Tom, they need the points. They're way behind, so they're not going to be fighting for the title, but at least they could try and overtake HB Motorsports for fourth, as both K-Tech and HB are one car entries this weekend. But Darren is on the outside of Kieran into the next set of corners. And this is going to be close. Connor runs wide, so Connor down to fourth, Josh up to third. Kieran slightly wide. Josh and Darren are now together. Josh is in second, so the last few corners proving to be really, really exciting here. Kieran is still leading. Josh is second. Darren is third, but Darren is looking to take second. So Kieran and Darren now fighting for the lead. Into the chicane then. Josh is with Darren. Kieran's gone down to fourth. So Darren's going to take this. You think he is? Yeah. Darren takes first, just ahead of Josh. Kieran's third, and as you saw in the background, Connor went off into the gravel, so I don't know if Kieran was involved there. It looks like Mark is going to take fifth. He does. So Mark, at the end of the race, gets ahead of Joe, who at one point was fighting for the lead of the race. Luke Knox is going to come away with seventh, ahead of Craig in eighth. So those two have been battling it out as well. Harry picks up the pieces after his early off and gets some decent points in ninth. With Darren scoring some good points, that'll be good for DC Motorsports in the teams race. Rob, another quiet one for him in 10th, but again, more points for Elliott Racing as well. And Aaron West here, even though he's had a few offs, and it seems to be that we only seem to see him going off the circuit whenever we watch him, has managed to get ahead and stay ahead of Mike, who really struggling here on the tyres. So Aaron West is gonna, or is he? Oh, that's a definite shortcut. Aaron takes 11th. Whether he will have a penalty afterwards, he may do. Mike takes 12th and the back, and Callum doesn't finish. On board with Connor. And again, as you can see, the finish to this race super close, and that's where Kieran was just really slow. Connor gets ahead, and there's the push. Darren Parker gets the win then in the DC Motorsports BMW after a hectic last few corners and snatches the win away from Kieran. Josh is second with Kieran third. Connor fourth in the end after going off into the gravel. Joe Burrows actually ends up in fifth ahead of Mark after Mark has to take a few after race penalties for his corner cutting. Luke 7th, Craig 8th, Harry 9th, Rob was 10th, Aaron in 11th, Mike was 12th, and Callum unfortunately doesn't finish the race after he retires. What this means then for the overall championship, Craig is still leading with 163, but Darren is very, very quickly closing up with 157. In third now, Josh, 137, so Josh jumps right up from 7th to 3rd after getting some really good points here. 4th is Mike after still struggling on those tyres. 5th is Rob, 131. 6th now, Joe Burrows after a couple of good results. 7th, Mark. 8th is Harry with 9th. Stephen Heath, who's dropping down because he's not here, so Stephen was looking to potentially be a title fight, but looks like not now, going into Brands. Further down, Kieran still in 10th, Tom drops down to 13th after not racing, Connor still climbing in 11th now, 102, and the rest follow on continually from there. In the teams then, Elliot still leading, 351. KNN have dropped down below DC, so DC up to 339, KNN 335, so DC, those points really counting now with Darren's 2 wins and Harry getting some decent points, so DC could potentially push for Elliot and into Brands potentially. HB on 302, K-Tech in 5th with 241, still a fair way to go to catch up, to take 4th away from them. In the independents then, it's basically Connor still leading with 208 points, Josh second, 206, so 2 points between them now. It was a close one in that race, so not many points between them there. Gary is still third, even though Gary's not racing here. Luke continuing to take the points, 123 now, so Luke could overtake Gary if he gets another set of good results in race 3. 5th, Joe is not here, so 5th still with 98, and the rest continue on there. Tom on in 6th and 80. Callum gets a few doesn't get any points, so he's still in 7th. Aaron is 8th now, 61 after scoring a few points. Alan and Ben still at the bottom as they are not racing here.